Good evening, everyone. Today is the first live interview that has ever been done or really brought to value of the untold story, which will be coming out in December. This is something that I took on a decade of my life and gave everything that I had to give to make sure that if in any way I could make an impact upon the system, which I knew was so foul, I dug in, and I want you to know that all of you, every one of you, have the same power. You were born with the same sovereign right in power that the government has no control over, yet we are all basically in servitude. Servitude means that when you were born, you basically rendered over your sovereign rights to the government, and that is how you fall up under what they call statute. I went to prison and I knew nothing, absolutely nothing about legal work. I, in fact, hated reading, writing, and come from a hard life, really, that only one person really close to me knows the depth of it. But I think there's a lesson to be learned that if it can stop just one human being, one person, from suffering what I had to endure and still do endure to this day, I think you cannot call that a lost cause. All of you need to come together as a group. We the people, we are the ones that elect these people, put them in office, and believe me, there are very many ways to handle official matters in public policy, because public policy reigns all of the local laws, regulations, policy, and after just being such a broken person, my second time in prison, I dedicated my life to education. However it came out, I was going to come out a better person. We'll get to that in a few minutes about how and why these things happened. I had grew up in Columbus, Georgia. Basically, just passed around, a lot of things. We're all poor, but it was not an excuse for me to ever give up or to lay down. And I remember many days sleeping on the railroad tracks behind my grandfather's railroad station or bait shop. And, there were so many of us that, I was glad to get just a pancake in my back pocket and a cane pole to go down just to get away from the chaos that I was in. And I grew up in an environment where defense mechanism was all I knew. By the age of 2 years old, I already knew and had mentally developed such defense mechanisms that, I was tired of being hurt. And until I was 35 years old, none of this made any sense to me, but things began to happen that I had no control over. And so I ended up having to have just basically 2 mental breakdowns, drug addict, homeless, been to jail so many times, 74 in fact, prison twice, and my world was just collapsing. My father had died, ended a 10-year marriage, and but yet I never stopped. I never let that detour me from what the bigger goal was. And the prison system, I took That and I used their own inner policy against them, and 11 federal lawsuits later, 22,000 pages of history, 10 years, believe me, there are ways around anything. You homeless people, if you have food stamp cards, there's a thing called an emergency access program, where you can get it. The HUD housing program, they haven't, just Google it. Emergency provisions for homeless people. But these things are something that everyone needs to know. But the untold story is going to be a gripping story. It's going to be heartbreaking. And you're going to see the journey and the life and the fight of one person that had so much will to live that in the most violent, chaotic environment, I would not let it stop me from thriving. And I was going to become educated, and I did. The system was not prepared for someone that actually had brain damage, but I was intellectually disabled on the high side with an extremely high IQ and a brain that races at about 3 times the rate of an average person. And so if I lose track of you, I'll leave an email link, whatever, but I don't care if it is dealing with Social Security Administration, regulation, policy, protections of Americans, the actual contract between we the people and the American government. The government has limited power, and all of you that are getting your children taken, you are playing by court rules that are meant to create commerce. Everything in your life that you will ever do until the day you die will be commerce. And until I understood commerce and regulation, nothing in the puzzle, everything that I ever did, it fit, I could make it work. But then once I started understanding tax code and applying how it actually worked and how the IRS would step in and take someone's property, and there was no explanation, they would just do it. But it's called public notice, commercial lien by public notice. And once you do that, it doesn't, you're not suing a person, you ain't attacking his personal property, none of that, but it is a contract between private parties that has nothing to do with the government. You as a person, we have nothing to, the government was put there to do one thing, that was to ensure that the Constitution was the functional foundation of everything that was fundamentally right as a human being. And when you lose a case, people say, oh, I lost my case. No, there's so many different ways to deal with it that, I spoke with someone recently that said, I lost my case in the Supreme Court. I can't go nowhere else. I said, well, then there's a mistake, because you can. If they applied the wrong law to a wrong case, then that is what they have to do, is take it and apply whatever situation to that specific law. That is called precedent. And within this, really, the damage from prison, it affected me in such a way that I don't do public places. I can't function. I'm extremely intelligent. But the psychological damage of prison is not. People think, oh, well, so yeah, you deserve to go there, but make no mistake about it. That may be you one day, or someone you love, but prison is one of the most foul places that I have ever been in, seen. I was in a place where there were 4 to 5 stabbings a week. I wrote Congress, I wrote I&I, Department of Justice, but I did one crucial thing that was so key to making it all work. Every day of my life, for 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, I studied law, and I learned how to use procedure within the system to protect me and make it work. And I did make it work. Got my jaw broken in prison, and I walked around 23 days with a dismembered face. And the guy that broke it was my bunkmate. And I can't. There's nothing I can do. I'm 6 months from getting out, yet he's gang affiliated. I'm not. I'm just I'm just a book nerd basically. So I was in a situation where I can't do anything but ride with it and until it gets fixed. But I have to sleep up under this person every night. And I think, honestly, after the reality of prison really came in was when I got my jaw broken. I'm watching things go on that, I had a cell phone the entire time I was in prison. I took on the entire prison administration. I broke them. In fact, they tried to kick me out of prison. That didn't work. I refused to leave. The warden met me at the back gate, and I had a warrant for child support because I had been in prison, but she said she didn't care. She said, take him wherever he wants to go. I don't care. Just don't bring him back here. And the key thing to this is what I'm trying to tell you is we have Google God now. If you have a question, ask it. Say, let's just say, give me the precedent law on the homeless Mental Health Protection Act, U.S. Supreme Court, and it'll pull it up and it'll tell you exactly what it is. And with this, the Supreme Court has to mirror the Constitution. Okay, it cannot be changed, it can't be altered. But under the Supremacy Clause, it also attaches and judiciary that every officer, clerk, secretary, official, it doesn't matter who it is, they all must mirror the Constitution. And you as a person, you have a right to recuse a judge if you feel that he has bias, or make sure that you put it in writing that if you're representing yourself, you have an attorney, you don't have that problem. But with the prison system the way it is, it doesn't work that way. It sounds good. Really, it's appalling. I watch every day. The things that were taught to me as a child about moral values and things, even as, I guess, a criminal, before I gave that life up, was still, I had so much compassion in me for people that I never wanted anyone to feel the type pain that I felt. And so, all of you have that inherent power. All you have to do is be fundamental. You know what? If you don't know, ask. Get in a group. I'm trying to create a live talk show where I promise you, after 8 years in prison and 5 years in United States federal court, fighting 2 law firms, 33 doctors, and my cases are still open for appeal. In fact, they're in the U.S. Supreme Court now. There is a way. There definitely is a way. but very few have the determination or understanding to not look at the guidelines, but you have to look at the regulations that allow the guidelines. And it's always common law of the Constitution. Common law regulates, is the backbone of the United States Constitution, not the U.S. corporate government. The U.S. corporate government must comply with the United States Constitution also. And when you have that, then if a judge or someone, you can't get in, believe me, a Section 1983 is what's made for inmates. You don't even have to be an inmate. I mean, if your constitutional civil rights are violated. But if any of you need any help, I hope this has been just some kind of understanding of how bad this is going to be for you to understand. Okay. I am an epileptic. I had both of my lungs taken out in 1988. They were put back in, and I lived through that. I was in a car accident that flipped 11 times. I walked away from that. That's where the epilepsy came from. I have been electrocuted by a 20,000 volt power line. I have fell off 40-foot ladders, and of course at younger age and all that. But I have had brain surgery. I have had back surgery. I have a failed fusion, failed hardware, and my spine is deteriorating, yet I can find the will and power within me and in my own mind, my damaged mind, that they say I'm schizophrenic. Oh, I've been called crazy. Let me tell you something. You do 28 years of your life in healthcare, and you have to deal with it every month because you have no choice. Then you begin to learn from the best and how to deal with them. And for 15 years of my life, I done nothing but stay in trouble. But the problem with it was my brain was drying up, and I didn't even know it. I mean, at 30 years old, one day I wake up, I start getting in trouble. And all this understanding, all these things that have come together and now are so documented, and I want to give it to all of you so that you can use it. It can help you. It is a story that can help break the American prison system as we know it. I mean, it is insane the amount of money that they spend on prisons, yet you got Jeb Bush running for president. His wife owns Aramark, which feeds all the prisons in the United States. Now, I was in a Florida prison, and same thing. It doesn't matter where you go. And so, make sure that you look me up on Facebook and find the links where you need to be, is LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or Google William Ellis Sr. on Google. Internet Explorer, Edge, all the major sites I'm on. And be looking forward to hearing from you guys. Make sure that we try to assimilate together and bring one cause, because I want to teach all of you the way to deal with real life problems on terms where the access is there, you just don't know how to get to it. And if you understand it on my level, where I came from the streets and then became extremely educated, so it gave me an advantage with a hyper brain. So I hope my presentation was good and all of you enjoyed it. Look forward to hearing email WilliamEllis950@gmail.com. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.